friends. Welcome to Sky House Herbs podcast. I'm Ashley Elenbaas, a clinical herbalist, and in this space, I share my knowledge and experience with plant medicine to help you on your own journey of healing and transformation. Join me in exploring the ancient wisdom of plant spirit medicine and how it can be used to heal the body, mind, and spirit. We'll talk to experts in the field and share stories from people who've been transformed by powerful plant allies. New episodes are released each Monday, so please subscribe. And now, let's explore this mystical world of plant medicine together. Hey Herbies, welcome in. Today we'll be talking about why it's so hard for people to learn herbalism. And the title of this video, why most people never truly learn herbalism. I chose it because I feel like there's a few things that block people from being able to absorb plant information. So I'm hoping in today's video, I'll go through and do a little bit of myth busting in terms of what you need to know in order to be a good herbalist or an effective herbalist. And some of the things I've learned through my 18 years of clinical practice and study to help you not make these same mistakes. Okay, before we go into today's content, if you haven't yet subscribed to my channel, please take a moment to click subscribe, receive notifications. Also, a reminder that I am hosting free Gentle Fridays. These will be on March 6th and March 13th at 12 o'clock noon Eastern Time. And the Gentle Fridays are a way for us to get together for 1 hour on Zoom, talk about how we're feeling, process the stress from being alive during these very tumultuous times, and learn about some herbs that are helpful for navigating and relieving stress. Before I go in any further, I also just want to give everyone a little check-in as to how things are going in Minneapolis right now. If you've been watching the news, you've known that there's been a heavy presence of ICE, which is the Immigration and Customs Enforcement here in Minneapolis. The numbers of agents have decreased, which is nice. However, there's still a lot of activity and still a lot of families sheltering in place. And I am working with the North Country Herbalist Guild to provide herbal care kits to families and to people who are unable to leave their homes still. And we'll be continuing these efforts through mid-March. And our next focus is on making these herbal care kits for children, specifically for children who haven't been able to go to school for over 10 weeks now, to help their nervous systems to recalibrate. So thank you to everyone who has been asking about how we're doing here and to everyone who's been contributing to both financial support and also literally sending boxes and boxes and cases of herbs to us so that we can prepare these kits. If you're curious to see what these kits look like, this is one sample. Inside we have a list of what is in the kit written in English, Spanish, and then in Hmong. They include a healing salve, an aromatherapy spray, and an herbal tea blend. The company that sent us these two wolves, Apothecary, sent us tea strainers, which is really nice. And each kit is a little bit different depending on what people have donated and what we've been able to fill them with. I know some of you have been asking, what's in these kits? Where are they going? Well, now you know. Right, now on to today's topic. I wanted to start with the first reason that I think blocks so many people from truly learning herbalism. And this is the idea that it's about information acquisition rather than relational development. I see a lot of people get really hung up on this when they're learning plants. They think to themselves, oh, I need to study 100 herbs and get to know all of them. And I need to memorize all of these facts and chemical compounds in the plants. And while I do think understanding and getting that fundamental information is important, a lot of people get stuck on that and then they never go to the next level of more deeply understanding how the plants live, their own needs, their own environmental niches, and the gifts that these plants bring to the environments that they live in. And all of that, when we understand the plants in their own native environment and we watch them, we spend time with them. That is what helps us to develop a deeper relationship. I want to share with you my story, kind of how I came to know plants in this way. And again, maybe it'll help you learn from my path, but also from some of my mistakes, some of the ways that I think I got sidetracked in my herbal learning journey. For me, I was one of those kids that loved being outside. And I think part of that was because my parents forced me. They would kick me and my brother outside to play. Get out of the house, get some fresh air. So we would be outside for hours and hours every day, rain or shine. And that helped instill in me a respect and a curiosity of the world around me. I remember one of my first earliest memories of understanding the consciousness of plants was when I was little. I remember looking out in my backyard and seeing all of the trees and thinking to myself, who takes care of these trees? Who washes them? Who feeds them? Who tells them that they're doing a good job? And I decided to take it upon myself to do that. And I went into the garage. I grabbed a big bucket of soapy water, which looking back, they probably didn't need soapy water. And I took my dad's big fat sponge that he used to wash his car. And I went out into the backyard, and with the soapy water, I sang to the trees and I washed them. And I remember singing specifically to the birch tree with its papery bark that I would peel. And I would use that bark to write little notes on. But I remember washing the birch and thinking to myself, gosh, what a unique tree. Look at the way its bark peels. Look at the coloring. It's so different from the mulberry. It's so different from the oak. It's so different from the pine. And as I watched them and really paid attention to each tree in my backyard, I remember feeling a kinship and feeling like if I give you something, I feel in my body, in my bones, in my heart, that there is reciprocation. And so that was my earliest memory of this relational bond that I knew I had with the plants. That bond continued to grow throughout my teens. And when I went away to college, I began to study environmental science, specifically environmental restoration. And I learned organic chemistry, how to take plant soil samples. And my thought was, I'm going to help save the world. I'm going to get out there into degraded environments and help build back health in these ecosystems. What I quickly learned is that I would basically be on the cleanup crew of all of the terrible choices that our government and large corporations were making. And so I started scratching my head thinking, that's not the way. Then I changed gears and I went into studying pre-medicine. And my thought in making that switch was, if I can show people how amazing these plants are, and if they can have a healing experience in their own bodies using plant medicine, then maybe they won't do such terrible things to the environment. And I still stand behind that message, that when people have an experience with plant-based medicine, they feel how these plants are intelligent and healing. They look at the environment differently. And maybe, I don't know how this might have reached someone up in DuPont Corporation or, somebody who works in politics. But I do trust that these are drops in the ocean of information, and that if we can help disperse this information more widely, then maybe consciousness around how we care for the environment will change. I want to preface some of this story by saying I had some foundational experiences in my younger years that helped me shape this cosmological worldview. One of them was taking large amounts of entheogenic medicines when I was younger. And, I think that some of those experiences were a little bit rebellious, right? But I also think a lot of it was my curiosity. I had a very active mind and I wanted to learn how things worked. And I wasn't getting the information I needed at school. And so I started taking on my learning on my own. I began to experiment with things like LSD and mushrooms and cannabis as a way of trying to understand the nature of reality. And I know that seems kind of a lot for a 14-year-old, but 14-year-olds are actually a lot more advanced than I think we give many of them credit for. During that phase, I also started consuming lots of books, the Tibetan Book of the Dead, writings on Zen Buddhism, yoga philosophy, and started practicing yoga and meditation meditation. Together with music and travel, spending lots of time in nature, I began to develop a worldview that was about the connection between ourselves, our minds, and nature around us. When I graduated with my undergraduate degree in integrative health studies, I went on to study herbalism and focused on something that would give me academic credentialed success. And in some ways it did. I went on to receive my Master's of Science in Clinical Herbal Medicine from what was then called the Thai Sophia Institute, which is now part of the Notre Dame College in Maryland. But it was a 3-year full-time master's level course, and I learned a lot more about the science of plants, chemistry, and the ancient ways that the Greeks viewed herbs. And they used energy and the understanding of how energy and the elements work to apply them to plant medicine. And that was all very helpful. And that clinical experience of giving me the hands-on time to work with people and see them through a clinical experience of using herbs was invaluable. However, after those 3.5 years, I still felt like I was missing something. And I have to say that it was after that 3-year full-time training that I began to really understand how herbs worked, because I started to slow down and connect with the plants one at a time. I went from creating these very beautiful formulations of 7 to 9 herbs in a tincture blend, or these elaborate tea formulas that had 3 steps of decoction and steeping and then adding in this cold infusion, all of these elaborate formulas. I went from using those to saying, wait a minute, what if we just use a single plant? If we can isolate one plant that can do all of those things for a person, isn't that maybe a little closer to relational healing? And that is what I now teach my students is, yes, let's learn some of the basics. Let's learn about what are alkaloids, what are polysaccharides, what are tannins, what are these chemical compounds. But let's also make sure we know who Nettles is. Before we give Nettles to someone, we need to understand who this plant is in nature, their likes and dislikes, and the energetics of the plant. How does that work in a body that is hot, cold, damp, or dry? In my experience, the plants work best when we have a relationship with them and when we know them personally. For me, I go to Nettles again and again and again. And it's been over the course of almost 20 years now that I've been working with this plant. I know in my body that Nettles is warming, it's drying, it's invigorating, it's nourishing. It has so many different vitamins and minerals that bring me into a more full expression of my own life force. And at the same time, I know that Nettles is a diuretic, that it helps move excess fluid out of my body, and it helps to detoxify things I've been holding on to. At different stages of my life, I've needed it for different reasons. And now I can look at my students and I can look at clients and say, I know this herb really well, and I'll tell you what it will likely do in your body. Why don't you try it and see how it works for you? In this way, I am no longer the expert saying, oh, I know all about these plants, and so this is the plant for you. But instead, I'm now able to say, here is a friend I have. Its name is Nettles. This is what I know about it. And what can you learn if you take it? What kind of relationship might you develop in your own healing journey by partnering with this single plant? I now understand that the power of herbalism isn't just in the phytochemicals, although they do serve a purpose, but it's also the story that we tell of our own healing journey. And when somebody comes to me and they tell me their story about how they came into this illness pattern, what this illness means to them, what it's taking away from them, then we can take that story and we can add in a plant that has its own journey and see how those can couple together and shift the narrative. Another point I want to share about why I think many people never truly learn herbalism is they get stuck thinking they need to know everything. They think that in order to be able to work with other people, they need to have everything memorized. They need to be an expert. And that is not true. You don't have to be an expert to be an herbalist. You have to be curious, humble, open, and reverent of the plants. That means you need to know what the dangers are of plants. You need to know safety requirements when working with plants and drug herb interactions. But you don't need to be afraid. When we build confidence with plants one at a time, that is how people start to embody that sense of confidence. When I shifted my way of working with plants from a linear to a more cyclical way of working with plants, that's when everything changed and got deeper. Many people think they need to get a credential, they need to complete a course before they can start using them. And I want to tell you that that's not true. What's more important is that you start to understand that growing your relationship with the plants is cyclical, and it's actually a spiral journey. If we think about, rather than trying to get from point A to point B, and instead every year we're increasing the amount of information we know about a single plant because we're following that plant through cycles of its own growing and dying and decaying and rebirthing. That is actually how we start to gain wisdom about any given plant. The same thing is true in our bodies. When we start to think about, well, I have to go from being here to here, and there will be a point where I'm healthy enough to do X, Y, or Z, we actually will never get to that point of perfection. Instead, when we think about our own healing path as being that cyclical path, when we think about our own healing journey as being circuitous and that we keep revisiting these same points along this upward spiral, every time we hit this point in the spiral, we know a little bit more about who we are and what we know and what we also don't know. The third thing that holds a lot of people back from being an herbalist is this idea that being an herbalist is performative and not relational. As a yoga teacher, I had to create a class plan with a theme, organize all of the poses to create a sequence, and I would teach and perform those sequences. In herbalism, it's not like that. We don't have a performance that we have to offer. Instead of getting up and being the teacher or the performer on the stage, we can be more of an invitational guide and say, hey, come with me and taste these plants. Come with me and make these medicines. Come with me and let's make some mistakes together and see that we're all at just different stages of our herbal journey. One time I was teaching my students how to make a tincture, and I got the jar size wrong. So then I put it into a smaller jar, and then that jar size was wrong. And I didn't edit those out of my teaching. I said, look, here I am, 20 years of experience making tinctures, and I still get the jar sizes wrong, and it's not a big deal. You can make mistakes and just change them. Change and learn as you go. But again, it's not about getting it right every time, but about being attentive and learning from your mistakes. The last thing that often holds people back from truly learning herbalism is they think that everything needs to be in black and white. That this herb does this, but it can't do that. But instead, what we need to be aware of as herbalists that really helps us understand the plants better is understanding nuance. One of the ways I teach nuance with my students is through comparing contrasting herbs. So for example, in every module, we have 2 herbs that are similar in some way. Let me give you an example. In one unit, we study 2 nervines. We study lemon balm and chamomile, and we do a compare and contrast. Now, on the surface, people might think, because they've read it in books, oh, well, lemon balm and chamomile are both nervines. They're both relaxants. They can both help with sleep. And that is true. That is true for both of those nervine relaxant herbs. However, they are very different plants. And when we get to know their energetics and we get to know the direction that they move energy in the body, we can see why in one circumstance, we definitely want to reach towards lemon balm. And in another situation, chamomile is a better fit. For example, lemon balm is considered to be slightly cooling because of these sour compounds compounds that they contain. The energy of lemon balm is more upward and outward. It's considered to be an antidepressant. It's a brightening, it's a cheerful herb. Now, chamomile, on the other hand, is considered to be warming, and its energy moves inward and more downward. Therefore, when we're thinking about which herb would be better for sleep, chamomile is the easy fit. If we're thinking about which herb is going to be calming for performance anxiety, let's say you have to give a presentation and you're feeling really anxious, well, lemon balm would be a really good one because it's a calming, nervine relaxant, but at the same time, it has this upward, brightening, confidence building energy to it. So it will take off the edge of your anxiety, but at the same time, give you that bright confidence, not that downward relaxing sedative energy that might not help you to feel fully in your body while you're giving that talk. In the year one course that I teach, we have students take one herb for 1 week. So you'll take lemon balm for a week, then you'll take chamomile for a week, and notice the effects and journal what do you notice in your body in taking these two herbs? And then you'll practice blending them together. And that is such an important way of studying herbs, is understanding who they are on their own and then what happens when you bring them together. That will allow you to be an excellent custom formulator. And with this idea that the way to learn herbs is cyclical and not linear, I offer for all of my students is they can retake my Herbal Foundations course as many times as they like. And it's really fun because I would say probably maybe a quarter of students that go through the year one course retake it. And not because they failed or because something went wrong, but because they want to revisit the herbs again. I've had students take it twice and they've come back and I'm so glad I took that course again, because in the second time of working with lemon balm, I noticed so much more. Or in the second time of studying plant energetics, it finally hit that I tend to run more hot than cold. And I didn't catch that the first time. And revisiting this information through different cycles of life and seasons of life, you'll learn them in new ways. And I always encourage my students, it's okay, take it again and trust the process that by revisiting these plants, you'll learn something new. All right, that is what I have for today. I hope it was helpful to think about the way that you learn herbalism is just as important as what you learn. The quality and the intention behind learning about plants and where they grow, the intentional process of building relationships with single plants at a time, and trusting that as you are building your repertoire of plants, that it isn't something that there is an endpoint and then you become qualified to speak about them. When you realize that this is a lifelong learning process, that you'll get a little bit more grace, that you'll be a little bit easier with yourself, and that you might take more risks in using herbs for yourself and for your family. When you take those risks, then you build more confidence because you realize, I can do this. I can use herbal teas when my family has a cold. I can take these plant tinctures that I've made to help with these mood fluctuations or with these urinary issues or whatever it may be. And when you take the risk, you build the confidence, and then that's really when the rubber meets the road and you take off in your work as an herbalist. If you want to learn more about the upcoming herbal apprenticeship, stay on for a video clip. I'll walk you through the year one foundations course, and you'll get a chance to see a sneak peek inside of the program and all of the things that you'll learn. Thank you for watching. I would love to hear your thoughts. What has helped you on your own herbal journey, and where do you get stuck? Where do you find that you hit the wall in terms of feeling confident in your ability to use plants? So leave those in the comments, and I look forward to seeing you in the next episode and maybe in the Herbal Foundations course. Thanks, everyone. Hey, everyone. I'm Ashley Marie Elenbaas with Skyhouse Herb School. Are you curious about plants? Do you want to learn how to use plant medicine for yourself and maybe for friends and family? Our upcoming Herbal Foundations course is exactly designed to help take you from this budding herbalist into someone who is confidently able to use herbs for yourself and for others. Let's take a look now at the course and what you'll learn. Our Vitalist approach will teach you ways of viewing the body and the plants from an ancient traditional perspective. You'll learn the language of hot, cold, damp, and dry, the 6 tissue states, and ways of making the elements come alive right in front of your eyes. One thing that people love about this class is you'll get a chance to take the herbs into your body and build a relationship with 20 different plants. We use a pairing method so that you can compare and contrast 2 herbs that are often thought of as similar, but you will learn how different they really are. In this course, we will have live classes where you will get a chance to ask your questions, do a review of the course material, and also be together in community and talk about how the plants are affecting us and how are we applying this information into our daily lives. Let's take a look now at the Sky House course itself. When you register, you will get access to our course page, which includes a welcome video and a content that will help orient you. You will then have recordings and modules that will walk you through class by class how to build your confidence as a practicing herbalist. You'll have slides that you can download, access to journal pages and worksheets, plant pairing information for each of the plants, and some optional reading to use. We provide you with supportive activities like sensory meditations, journal questions, and plant walk guides. Also included are plant info sheets, and many students like to print these out and save them. We'll give you information including actions, energetics, botanical names, and things that I know about these plants from my own clinical practice. You'll learn of traditional uses, dosage, and safety, and we'll always provide you with references and sources so you can learn about these plants on your own. Once a month, we'll meet together in community. We'll talk about the plants, what we're learning, and the questions that we have. All of these are recorded and will be saved on the course platform right here. Some highlights from the course are visualizing your own herbal sanctuary, imagining an apothecary that you can easily reach to and access for all of your own health and your family health needs. Students love learning about the 4 elements and how these translate into your work with the plants. We will go step by step through the 4 elements, all of their fundamentals, the herbs that are most associated with each of these elements, and what these elements look like when they're in balance and also when they're out of balance. I'll bring you into my kitchen and show you how to make your own folk remedies, and at the end, we'll review every single herb that we've taken and studied so you can more deeply understand at that next level how this herb works, remember how it affected you, and how you might talk about this herb and share it with others. One of my favorite pieces is sharing with you clinical data, facts from science and clinical trials that will show us exactly how these herbs work in the body. And along that line, also how we can safely use these herbs in practice. And a favorite piece is sharing student experiences from my 13 years of teaching this course. If you're interested in learning more and you'd like to enroll, you can enroll right on the website. Go to skyhouseherbs.com, scroll down, and you'll see our enrollment payment options. You can pay the early bird rate, click on 12 payments, and you'll see the monthly rate. If you need financial support, we do offer need-based tuition. Click on tuition assistance, and you fill out an application to see your eligibility for need-based pricing. If you have any questions, please reach out to me at info@skyhouseherbs.com. Let me know your questions, your thoughts, what you're excited about for this course, and I hope to see you in the Foundations program.